Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see you well rested with that extra hour of sleep and a cloudy but nice autumn day. Welcome to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are glad you are here. This is a Come As You Are congregation, and you are welcome here just as you are. I want to extend a special welcome to any visitors. Please make sure you've signed in back at the table, and we will keep in touch with you. My name is Kathy Hartman. I serve as one of your worship associates, and today we have a guest minister, Reverend Kelly Dignan, who you'll learn more about very soon. Here at Namakwa UU, we foster a beloved community that celebrates diversity, strives for peace and justice, acts mindfully for the good of the planet, and inspires spiritual growth through a free and loving search for truth and meaning. We honor the ground we walk upon and acknowledge this land as the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute nations and peoples. We recognize and honor the indigenous peoples as original stewards of this land and vow to reconcile the deep wounds that still shape our world today. A couple of announcements. Next Sunday, November 12th, Reverend Dana, Ryan, and the choir, yay, as we explore how we bless our community and the world with our generosity of spirit. We'll also celebrate and welcome our newest members to the congregation. Today, if you have a brief personal joy or sorrow you'd like to have shared in the service, but do not want to come forward, please be sure and fill out one of the forms that we have, and maybe if the ushers have any of those handy, they might see if anyone wants to fill one out. Otherwise, you can come up when we do joys and sorrows. Please take note of all the events happening. There's a wonderful calendar printed with everything going on this month. And many thanks to everyone involved in today's service. And now for a brief commercial announcement. Rebecca. Just say skateboarding, Rebecca, skateboarding.
Yes, I had this boot on. It was a skateboarding accident. Back to the more serious. So as most of you know, we have been doing a special fundraising campaign, Giving in Gratitude. And Cherry Sokolowski, who's on her way to Croatia, I believe, today, she and I have been heading up that effort. And I have really good news. So today is November 5th. Next Sunday, November 12th, is the day that we intend to wrap up this campaign. And the good news is, because we were wanting to reach $20,000. And the good news is we have 18. So thank you for everybody who has contributed to this. So another $2,000, which we've got a whole week. I mean, come on. And if you haven't got your Giving in Gratitude contribution in, there is a box here by the visitors table. There's a box in Parker Hall. And you also should have received an envelope in the mailing that we did, and you can send it in. So thank you so much for everyone who's contributed. It's been fantastic. And next week we'll wrap this up, and I'm sure we'll see over $20,000, which of course we can use. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca and Cherry in absentia. Now I have the pleasure of introducing Reverend Kelly Dignan. As you know, Dana has been lining up guest ministers once a month for us, and this week we have the pleasure of Reverend Kelly Dignan, who just lives down the road in Denver. She is the co-director of the UU Ministry for Earth. She focuses on programs and loves helping UUs deepen their practices of earth care, climate justice, and flourishing of life. She also offers spiritual direction to individuals and teaches UU history at the Iliff School of Theology, her alma mater. Kelly lives in Denver with her husband and near her 4 children. Kelly.
Thank you so much for having me here today. All of you here and those of you online, I'm honored to join you in this beautiful space that I have never been to or in, so thank you. We thought we'd introduce Ministry for Earth early in the service so that you knew who I was. And so you can see our mission on the screen, to be a seedbed of spiritual grounding for deep practices of earth care, climate justice, I would say, and flourishing for all. Our scope is national, and we're funded by donations and grants, and we're not part of the UUA, but we are what is called a related organization. And we partner with the Side with Love climate justice campaign almost daily. They offer political education and organizing, and we offer spiritual care for climate justice. And we do that in 3 ways: resources, gatherings, and support for good, strong, bold action. So in terms of resources, every month we issue a free worship packet and small group ministry resource guide, all with earth-centered and climate justice themes. You can sign up to receive those, or you can get them on our website. And they go well with Soul Matters or other theme-based ministries. So you could use those however you see fit. And then for Earth Day, we do a super version of that. So there's stuff going on all month for you for Earth Day. We also offer recordings. We've done a lot of workshops, including at GA, and we have online meditations. There's religious ed curriculum for all ages that can be supplemented with your other stuff. And then we gather stories from congregations who are doing good work with frontline communities, faith-based work in their local communities for climate justice. Online gatherings are a place for deepening. So monthly we hold a full moon gathering. Young adults meet monthly. So if you've got young adults in your congregation, there's a really great group of young adults that meets online. And then we offer seasonal events, including our very next one, which is Solstice. Do you all do a solstice service here? All right, so you're covered, and you might do it on the night out. But if you want to join nationally at the national level, the night before, Solstice Eve, we're hosting Light for All, and we're talking about clean energy as a human right for all on the longest night of the year. And lastly, we offer support for action in form of movement chaplaincy at the local, state, and national level. We help people doing climate justice develop their faith message before an action and then debrief afterwards. And we do that largely with other UU national organizations. On the next slide, you're going to see we have a climate justice coalition now within the UU ecosystem. Every month, all of these organizations meet and coordinate our efforts for climate justice. And I mean, I think it's pretty unique that, you know, it feels like stuff has been siloed for so long, and I didn't even know about some of these wonderful organizations that are out there, and now I'm in partnership with them, and we're all working so that you can know what's happening at the local and national levels. So thank you for just having that time for a little bit of intro to UU Ministry for Earth. I'm going to move us right into our opening words. Today, we focus on our inherited cultures and ancestors and how they can help us make climate justice real, create climate justice. And Reverend Kathleen McTeague, in her poem called "They Are Still With Us," says this: "Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice, have not melted into the dust. They have not disappeared. They are still with us, and their lives and the lives they lived hold us steady." So let us gather this morning to honor our ancestors, the healthy and well ones, and their connections to Earth, so that we may remember our own connection.
Oh, and saying our congregational affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. So greet someone near you that you might not have met yet, or an old friend you haven't seen in a while, or your grandchild.
Thank you for all your good work.
Oh.
And for everybody online, if you'd like to greet one another in the chat room, please feel free to do so.
Good morning. Let's just do coffee hour the whole service. Hello. We're going to do coffee hour the whole service, and it's going to be fun. So this hymn, if you've ever heard the question, what is your elevator speech for Unitarian Universalism? This is a good one, mostly because it's mostly questions, which resonates with us, right? Second, it's short, which is also nice. And thirdly, if you look at the actual music in the hymnal, there are 4 lines, and it's written as a possible round, but there's a repeat of each line. So that means you could just sing one line over and over if you want. So like our creed, don't tell us what to do, this is a perfect hymn for that. So let's sing it through once together, and then I'm going to invite you to just kind of do what you want with the piece, okay? Can we rise in body and spirit?
going to show the story on the screen, but you can come up here and then we can sing you out. Otherwise, how do we sing you out? You can do whatever you wish. Enjoy the story.
Circle Unbroken by Margot, Theis, Raven, pictures by E.D. Lewis. Circle Unbroken, the story of a basket and its people. Now you've asked me, child, how I come to sew. Well, put yourself in Grandma's arms and listen to a circle tale from long, long ago. Once, your old-timey grandfather lived in a village by a fine flowing river across a wide, deep ocean in faraway Africa. On the hills by the river grew pale stalks of grass to feed the village and the spirits of the land. By the banks of the river grew tall, grassy weeds to weave into baskets to winnow the rice. One day after harvest, when he was no longer a boy, but not yet a man, your old-timey grandfather was led by the men who lived in the village to a grove in the forest where the palm trees grew. It was their secret place, the Poro bush, not far from the rice and the fine flowing river, where the men beat their drums and a boy became a man. Can you bring water in a basket? A masked spirit asked him then. When he answered yes, the men of the village took him into the grove, gave him a name, and taught him all they knew, just as I am teaching you. But why deep ocean held the rain too? And the rain fell bitter as your grandfather's tears when the slave men came and bound him in chains and stole him from his village to a ship, bound for a strange new land. In the port of Charleston, he was put on a stand and heard the auction man cry, going fast, going slow, going high, going low. He was sold to a master who owned a great plantation by a long curving river that flowed to the ocean that touched the shores of his faraway Africa. He lived in a shanty shingled with cypress. He worked in the rice fields from day clean to sun go red. But long night after long day, he sewed baskets in the old way. From the bulrush that whooshed and hushed by the marshes and the rivers that flowed to the sea. The grasses brought him comfort, his fingers knew their secret. Never forget, they whispered, as he sewed palmetto strips in and out, around and through. His circle grew and grew, and when his fingers tucked just right, his basket held the rain, and he remembered from where he came. Now, on a nearby plantation lived your old-timey grandmother, who came too from a village across the wide, deep ocean. Long ago, when she was not yet a woman, but no longer a girl, the women of the village took her into the Sunday bush, their sacred place, and taught her all they knew. She learned to grow a garden of cassava and sweet potatoes, to fish with the nets, and when the river was low, to winnow rice in a fanner basket, tossing the grains up fast and slow. And she learned to sew small baskets to hold the treasures of her hut. Ginger, palm fruit, and cola nuts. And when her fingers chopped just right, each coil touched so tight, her basket held the rain. One day, in the shadow of the big house, your old-timey grandfather wed your old-timey grandmother. They had children, and the baby slept in the sun, in Moses' baskets, while the field work was done. And when the babies cried, your old-timey grandmother sang to them, soft as gray moss, low as the going-out tide. Then those children had children, and those children too, till one day the Yankees came with cannons, sounding, pounding, booming over the land. What's coming, Grandma? The yard children cried. Freedom, she said. And the lad children watched as a sea of blue coats went marching by, while the basket children lay looking up, not knowing that everything was changing like clouds blowing in the sky. Now, it was the times after slavery, when your great-great-great-grandfather worked shares on this land, on marsh, sea, and sky, where the creek beds rose high on the old rice fields, melting them away like shadow into shade. He built a boat of wood and took it to the sea, far past the shores where the sweet grass goes. Rowing in, he had fish for his family and fish to sell. Then, long night after long day, he told the tales of Burr Rabbit and Burr Fox, till their laughing eyes danced like sunlight on the water, stars above the creek. Your great-great-great-grandmama heard the stories too. Next day she carried fish and wares to the market in the basket she made, toting her burdens and cares high on her head. And the circle went out and out, like the stone that milled their corn, and the net that caught their shrimp, and the ring shut that praised our Lord, just as I give praise for you. And their children had children, and their children too, until one day across the great wide ocean a war began. The men of the island went away like the tide, while the women waited and sewed long night after long day. When the men came home again, the bridge builders came too, tying islands to land with steel arcing hands. What's coming, Grandma? The yard children cried. Tomorrow, she sighed. And the porch children watched as the bridges brought cars, and the cars brought people. And the basket children lay looking up at the sky, not knowing the old ways were leaving us fast as the cars passing by. But some folks at night sat around the lamplight, showing the young ones the road ahead was over and through, as new hands talked to old friends, the bulrush, the sweetgrass, palmetto, and pine. And those children had children who put up wooden stands to show their baskets along the highways and the marketplace where the tourists came through, and thought the beauty of old baskets was something new, just as my baskets are new to you. While the women sat behind their stands, their sacred place, sewing and sharing with daughters all they need. The men took the boys to their secret place, the dunes and marshes by creeks and the sea, to cut the bulrush and pull the sweetgrass, and dry it in the sun as it had long been done. And so it always been, time flowing like a river, circle going out like a pebble in a pond, until I came along, your mama and you. And time has come now, child, for you to learn the knot that ties us all together, the circle unbroken. And when your fingers will talk just right, that circle will go out and out again, past slavery and freedom, old ways and new, and your basket will hold a path, just shortly and tightly as my arms now hold the end, circle you. The end.
Do you want to light the, do you want to light the chalice? That's right. Chalice Lighting is by Leslie Pohl Cosbow. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home. So each week you come here and support this congregation in so many ways, and we're going to ask you once again. Rebecca got you one time. This is our regular offertory, which we share half of each quarter, or every 2 months we're doing it now. But today we're doing a special collection for the UU Ministry for Earth. So please give generously. Thank you all for your generosity. Are there any joys or sorrows in here? I guess not. Okay, thank you. So now is the time in our service when we let each other know some of the things that are going on in our lives. So if you have a joy or sorrow, and you'd like to come forward and give us a brief personal little description of that, we'd love to send you our good thoughts. Fran, and say your
If
name,
there's
please.
anyone on Zoom, please
Fran
just
Green.
type your joy or
I was
sorrow
not
in the
able to
chat,
come
please.
last Sunday because of the icy roads, but it was my 80th birthday.
Let's just touch our hearts and say happy birthday, Fran, and thank you.
My name's Jim, and my joy, I think I can share with some of you who were there. A week ago, Thursday, thanks to the Stegners, they held an opportunity for us to get together and hear our talented choir director and accompanist, Ryan Marvel, present some of his special music. And it was really a joy. And and I found out from John that you don't have to wait till Sunday to listen to Ryan. I'm listening to him on Spotify and Amazon, and I'm not sure if there are any others, but I highly recommend in the morning, rather than listening to the news, listen to Ryan. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, it was a beautiful concert.
I'm Janet. I've got all kinds of joy, but I'll share two biggies with you. On Halloween, my eldest granddaughter got married. Yay! So it's Yolanda. She got married. And today is the 55th birthday of my eldest child. So we're going to see Queen tonight.
Here's to Queen and birthdays and weddings. Anything up on Zoom? Nothing up there. Oh, we got a couple more. Come on, Peter.
In the service hall, I'll have more of these things. You may remember I offered them about 6 months ago. They're good for soup, nails, cat food, whatever. So,
Store your nuts and bolts, thanks to Peter. Thank you, Peter.
My name's Robin, and I came to this church almost a year ago, and I'm so grateful to have come in here. Many reasons. Love the Unitarians. And I sometimes perform at comedy night, and many of you who know me a little better than just seeing my face might know that I'm struggling with some things and I have some anger. And so, and it's kind of, some of it's new to me, and I'm dealing with some harassment and some gang stalking. And this week, one of the names they're calling me is Anna Bandana Brown, and leaving cardboard signs around our town. And so I'm doing my best to deal with it and try to voice who I am. And I want to say a couple things is, don't believe everything you see and hear. And my bandana is green, and it has the Higgs boson on it, and we do our best. And so for me, sometimes it's a struggle to come in here, because sometimes I don't know the difference between each of you and whoever's leaving these signs around my home, including dead animals and things like that. So when we can come together in something like this and be for each other and for a space of love and sweet stories, that's a miracle. So thank you.
Here's to positive vibes. Anyone else? Well, let's send some good vibes also out to the people in Palestine and Israel and Ukraine and Lewiston, Maine, and hope that we can somehow learn how to heal this world.
It's the breath that connects us to each other and to the web of life. With every breath, we exchange molecules, including molecules with those who came before us. We are the breath of our ancestors. So I invite you into a time of meditation. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze or keep them open, whatever works for you. You can straighten your back so that your body is erect, or you can slouch, whatever is best for you. Begin to just shift your attention from the outside world to your inside world, into your body, your breath. What is happening with your breathing right now? Is air coming in and going out through your nose or your mouth? What happens when you direct your attention there? Is the air cold or a bit warm? Keep noticing. Draw in a few deeper breaths. Focusing on your in-breath. Breathe in the oxygen that the plant life has to offer us. Feel your connection with plant life. Now focusing on your out-breath. Really let it out. As you breathe out, you're offering carbon dioxide as a gift to the plant life, a gift plants need and receive. Breathing in oxygen from your plant friends, your plant cesters. And breathing out carbon dioxide to those friends. In this way, we connect. We connect to earth and nature. And we remember that we are not alone.
Thank you, Kelly. I like that new word, plant cesters. I'm going to use that. A reading from Eco-Womanism at the Panama Canal. Black Women, Labor and Environmental Ethics, Environment and Religion in Feminist, Womanist, Queer, and Indigenous Perspectives by our UUA President, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt. She is an eco-womanist theologian and scholar. Eco-womanism is an approach to environmental justice that centers the perspectives of women of African descent and reflects upon these women's activist methods, religious practices, and theories on how to engage earth justice. Eco-womanism features race, class, gender intersectional analysis to examine environmental injustice around the planet. President Betancourt says, "It is to inherited environmental practices themselves that eco-womanism must turn for rehumanizing ways of knowing in relation to Earth. A methodology of reclaiming inherited environmental cultures in the quest to center justice in living out the best of our human nature requires the wisdom of all of our grandmothers. In our diverse ethnic identities, even those so silenced by mythologies of whiteness as to seem lost to the tides of history, there exist relationships to non-human nature that predate settler colonial worldviews, resource theft and control, abhorrent religious justifications for enslavement, and the imposition of colonized and otherized identities. It is these lasting stories, many of which masquerade as unexplained family traditions, those things that are educated out of us in the name of progress or success, that might serve to ground an eco-womanist moral anthropology and release us from the environmental apathy of the day."
President Sophia says, in a nutshell, that connecting to our ancestors and their earth-centered practices can help us rehumanize ways of knowing in relation to Earth, and they can help us enact environmental justice. She and other eco-womanist scholars call this eco-memory. Eco-memory, returning to the inherited practices. They call it eco-memory. And this is a perfect time of year to tap into our eco-memories, since in traditions across the world, the veil is thin, right? And last week, I know you all here celebrated Samhain, Halloween, All Souls Day, Day of the Dead. In China, it's called Chongyang. In Japan, it's called the Bon Festival. And so this is a perfect time of year to tap into our eco-memories. I want to clarify that ancestors can be biological, but they can also be chosen or religious. Chosen ancestors might be mentors, teachers, step-grandparents. Do any of you have any chosen ancestors? Yeah? A couple of you have chosen ancestors. My step-grandson calls me his heart grandma. He was very, very concerned that I wasn't his blood grandma, and got very into it when he was in first grade. Now he's in fifth grade, and he's decided to call me his heart grandma. So I am preparing to be his ancestor, and I won't be his biological ancestor, right? So we can have chosen ancestors. We can also have religious ancestors, and we as Unitarian Universalists have lots of those. Raise your hand if you've got a Unitarian or Universalist or Unitarian Universalist historical figure that you really love, that you read and really, yep. For me, it's Margaret Fuller. She was a transcendentalist, one of the few women, was also a women's rights activist, and her eco-memory, she writes about it in her writings, 1850s, writes about her memories of being in the woods behind her house and her dad having to come find her and drag her out of the woods, how she resisted it. So whether it's chosen biological or religious ancestors, President Sophia reminds us that in our lineage, and these are the words that Kathy read, in our lineage, there exist relationships to non-human nature that predate settler colonial worldviews, and that we need to try to reconnect to the ways those ancestors were in relationship with Earth. Now, it's debatable about when colonialism colonial worldview set in, but I'm going to go with about 2,000 years ago. Empire, maybe even before. I mean, a lot of settler colonialism starts in the 1400s, but I'm going to say 2,000 years ago. That is 80 generations ago. 80 generations ago. That's a lot of ancestors, right? And it's really hard to know what their practices were. There's an author, Laurette Edith Savoy. She's a nonfiction author of African American, Euro-American, and Native American heritage, and she says this: what I can know of my ancestors' lives or the land where they lived can't be retrieved like old postcards stored in a desk drawer. To remember is to know that traces, now without name, still mark a very real presence. And to remember is to discover patterns in fragments. Patterns in fragments. So some of us have memories of people in our lives, and then there are these old-timey grandparents, like in our story for all ages, that we might not know, but we can trace the fragments, like the reader and the grandmother in our wisdom story did. Retrace the fragments of what was going on for her with her ancestors in Africa. I've found that it's easiest to start with memories that we do have, and then trace the patterns back that extend further back in time. So I'd love to share something from my own eco-memory to make this applicable. Is that all right with you all? If I tell you a little story? Okay. When I was a young girl, it was my mother's parents who loved nature. They were the ones. Grandfather whistled to birds, and I was always shocked when they whistled back. He loved trees and their magnificence and beauty, and I remember him stopping and touching the trees and talking to the tree, putting his hands around the tree trunk like he put on my face. Grandmother greeted the mountains. She was loud. "Good morning, beautiful mountains," she'd say. And then my mother too, like much to my chagrin, we'd be driving down, Yale Avenue in Denver. "Good morning, beautiful mountains." They would greet both mom and grandmother. Grandmother gardened and arranged flower bouquets I can still picture in my mind. These grandparents had a little tiny cabin in Coal Creek Canyon along the Moffett train line. And my brothers and cousins and I got to spend 2 or 3 weeks there each summer, and we were free to wander all day. And for me, that's where I came into connection with the natural world. That's where the magic happened. That's my sacred spot in our wisdom story. The old-timey grandparents and the great-great-great-grandparents and the grandma have a sacred spot, a place where they connected to the natural world. For me, it was in these woods of Coal Creek Canyon. Now, there was an old abandoned lean-to, and we were certain a fairy lived there. And so we scrubbed it and cleaned it up with Dawn dishwashing soap. I can still smell the smell of Dawn. And we put food out at night, and every morning we'd go out, and the food was always gone. Now, could have been bear, could have been parents, but we were certain it was the fairy. We picked wild raspberries and built sand castles out of the dirt in the roads. We scrambled up the rocks to a place we called Inspiration Point that looked down on Gross Reservoir. There, we were on top of the world, and it felt to me like that was a portal to something that was way bigger than me, and it was that place that we spread the ashes of my uncle, and then my grandpa, and then my grandmother, and then my mom. Back to those childhood memories. At night, we sat around the fire, and my grandparents told stories of the old-timey ones, the ones in Germany. I noticed your history back here. in the 1800s, where they farmed and grew herbs and raised animals, where they lived on the second floor and the livestock lived on the ground floor outside of Frankfurt. Their practices, their connection, their way of loving and honoring the land. I heard stories about how they learned to bake and brought their craft in 1890 to Greeley, Colorado. Yes, they came here and started a bakery, and the building still stands, is now the home of the Cow Saloon and Eatery on 9th Street and 8th Avenue in Greeley. Before then, I don't know. Before then, our wisdom story said that the ancestors sewed great baskets to hold rice from the plants that brought them comfort and reminded them where they had come from. Who were they? It's a mystery. A mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery, but the fragments and traces tell me that my people talked to trees and the mountains, and they heard back from them. They felt spirit alive in the air and the rivers. They honored all aspects of nature just as they honored their human loved ones. And they sat around fires and told stories. I can Google search where those people lived and see trees and imagine them there. I can Google search those landscapes and imagine myself there. Where do I come from? Who am I? All of that history, all of that eco-memory has influenced my own environmental practices, my own practices for earth care. Several times a year, I gather my now grown children. One just turned 30 on November 1st. I gather him and his sister and my nieces and nephews, and we sit in a circle and we honor the rhythm of nature, and we do ritual to remind ourselves that we are nature. We tell stories of our plant ancestors. We grow herbs together and build incense. And we commit, all of us commit to working for climate justice, which I'll describe in a bit. So that's my eco-memory story. And what I'd love to do, if you're willing, is to lead you in another shortish meditation to help you connect to your own eco-memory. Now you get to participate as you're willing. We're going to start in a place and then move to an ancestor, biological, chosen, religious. You get to choose. Whenever we work with ancestors, we remember the well ones, the healthy ones, the ones who are benevolent and want us to thrive. So it'll be clear to you once we get into our heart centers and engage our spiritual imaginations. So as you are able and willing, I invite you once again to close your eyes, lower your gaze, or keep your eyes open. And find your feet. The great Mother Earth beneath you. Feel the air and sky around you. If it helps to drop down into your heart center, feel free to do that, to begin to engage your imagination a bit and take yourself to a place in nature, a place you love, a place that's sacred. It may be from your childhood or in a park nearby your house today, maybe in the middle of a city or just outside. Find yourself in this place. What do you see? What do you hear? Maybe some birds or squirrels or rustling around. Maybe the air moving through trees. Maybe you're at an ocean and the waves are rolling in. What do you hear? What do you smell? Is there something you can touch? You've been here before. This place knows you. This land welcomes you. Greet it. Maybe find one element and, like we did before, breathe. Breathe in mutuality and reciprocity. Offering the gift of carbon dioxide. Breathing in the gift of oxygen. From this place, travel in your memory or invite one person, a loving and healthy person who helped you develop a relationship with nature. Now thank them for coming to you today. You might invite them to have a seat with you. You can ask them, what was your practice? What did you love most? What connected you to Earth? What connected you to nature? Remind me. Remind me. If you'd like to expand your vision to even more healthy ancestors, feel free. Maybe more come. Ask them if there's anything they'd like for you to do to honor Earth, to honor our more than human kin. And then thank them for coming. You might tell them you'll meet them here again sometime soon, and watch them walk away as you once again thank this sacred place. And gradually, using your imagination, finding yourself journeying from there back to this room where you are now. You might wiggle your toes and your fingers and gently open your eyes. Eco memories. Eco-memories and earth-centered practices can be a source of strength. They connect us to our hearts, and they motivate us for action. And so I just ask that you continue to be in relationship with these well ones. I want to tell you one more story before we end. It was my old-timey farming ancestors that led me to Washington, D.C. last month. You know, those old farming ways were probably regenerative, don't you figure? Certainly not extensive in their use of fossil fuels. Today, 11% of the United States carbon emissions comes from agriculture. So it was those old-timey ancestors who went with me to DC to advocate for a climate-smart and racially just farm bill. And I could have gone in with all the facts and the figures to meet with senators, and I'm not even going to tell you all the things that happened. I have it all written down. I'm just going to say that my ancestors were with me in Senator Bennett's office, in Senator Hickenlooper's office, in Republican offices, Democrat offices all across the aisle, as Unitarian Universalists from all over the country came to DC to advocate for a farm bill that honors Earth, that honors people of all races and ethnicities. It's that heart-centered connection that moves us into action. How might your ancestors, their practices, their connection to nature inspire you? That's the question of the day. We are the breath of our ancestors. And so as you're willing, just gently rise, embody your spirit as we sing, We Are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. Your mothers of courage and fathers of fun. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're lovers of life and builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We're proud of we are our grandmother's prayer. We are our grandfather's dreaming. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. Each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Each child that's born, the morning star rises, sings to the universe who we are. Please be seated for our closing words, benediction and chalice extinguishing. They are with us still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves and in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in the choice of living. It is right to remember the names of and the power of the hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. Reverend Kathleen McTeague, she goes on, they too were strengthened by what had gone before them. They too were drawn on by the vision of what might come to be. Those who lived before us, I'll add chosen, religious, or biological, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are with us still. The lives they lived hold us steady. The words remind us, their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. Their courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them with us. We are their voices, their hands and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them, we choose the deeper path of living. May it be so, and so many blessings. Go in peace.